The brain is our most valuable organ. It stores every memory we've made, controls every movement we take, and allows us to connect with the people we love. But just like the rest of our body, it can change as we age. Some forgetfulness is a normal part of getting older, like occasionally misplacing your keys or struggling to remember a name. But dementia is different. Dementia is not a single disease. It's an umbrella term for conditions that cause a decline in mental abilities severe enough to interfere with daily life. The most common type is Alzheimer's disease, which accounts for 60 to 80% of cases. Then there's vascular dementia, caused by reduced blood flow to the brain, Lewy body dementia, linked to abnormal protein deposits, and frontotemporal dementia, which affects personality and behavior. The science tells us dementia happens when brain cells are damaged and lose their ability to communicate with each other. Over time, these connections break down, leading to changes in memory, thinking, mood, and physical abilities. Today, I'll walk you through 10 early warning signs of dementia, subtle clues that something more than normal aging may be happening. For each one, I'll explain the science, share a real-life example from a senior I've worked with, and show you why noticing these changes early can make all the difference. Before we start, don't forget to download our free PDF checklist of dementia's early signs and read the full blog post on our website. And if you haven't already, join our senior health community group where we share resources, answer questions, and support each other on the journey to better health. One of the first things dementia can affect is organization. The frontal lobe of the brain acts like a personal secretary, keeping your schedule, managing tasks, and helping you plan ahead. When dementia starts interfering with this area, even the most organized person can feel like their thoughts are scattered. I once worked with Mary, a retired teacher who was famous among her friends for her neat, color-coded calendars. Over a few months, her daughter noticed stacks of unpaid bills mixed with birthday cards, appointments missed, and groceries left to spoil in the fridge. Mary wasn't careless. The wiring in her brain that once handled planning was starting to fray. Why does this matter? Because when organizational skills start slipping in a noticeable way, especially for someone who's always been good at them, it can be an early sign of cognitive decline. Getting checked by a doctor early can help identify whether it's normal aging or something more serious. And the sooner you know, the sooner you can put strategies in place to make life easier. Dementia doesn't just affect memory, it can quietly alter personality. The brain's frontal and temporal lobes help regulate emotions, empathy, and social behavior. When these areas change, so can the way a person reacts to the world. Frank, a retired firefighter I met, had always been easygoing and quick to laugh. Over time, his wife noticed he was snapping at small inconveniences, withdrawing from his weekly poker nights, and seeming disinterested in conversations. His friends thought maybe he was just tired or stressed, but the truth was that the parts of his brain that shaped his personality were under strain. This matters because subtle personality changes are often brushed off as just getting older, when they can be early signs that the brain is struggling. Recognizing this can encourage someone to seek help sooner, and the early awareness can make a huge difference in planning and treatment. Many people are surprised to learn that constipation can be an early sign of certain types of dementia, particularly those related to Parkinson's disease. The gut and the brain are closely connected through the vagus nerve, and when nerve signals slow down, digestion can be one of the first areas to suffer, sometimes years before memory problems appear. Ellen, an active grandmother in her 70s, had never struggled with digestion, but suddenly found herself battling chronic constipation that wouldn't go away with diet changes alone. Not long after, she began experiencing mild tremors in her hands. These symptoms led her doctor to investigate further, and she was diagnosed with early-stage Lewy body dementia. Why does this matter? Because when constipation appears suddenly in someone without a history of it, and especially if it's paired with other small neurological symptoms, it's worth having a conversation with a doctor who understands the gut-brain connection. Your senses, sight, smell, touch, hearing, balance, are constantly sending information to your brain. In dementia, the brain can struggle to process those signals correctly, especially the sense of smell. In fact, research shows a loss of smell can show up years before memory symptoms. Robert, a lifelong chef, noticed he could no longer smell fresh herbs or detect spoiled milk in the fridge. Around the same time, he began misjudging distances while parking, even though his eyesight was fine. These changes weren't happening in his eyes or nose, they were happening in his brain's sensory processing centers. This matters because sensory dysfunction is often overlooked as a normal part of aging. But when it appears suddenly or alongside other changes, it can be an early clue that something deeper is going on neurologically. Language is one of the most complex things the brain does, involving areas like Broca's region for speech production and Wernicke's area for comprehension. In some forms of dementia, these areas become less efficient, making it harder to find the right word or follow conversations. Jane, a former librarian with a love for storytelling, began replacing specific words with vague ones like thing or that stuff. She'd lose her train of thought mid-sentence and grow frustrated when she couldn't finish her stories. This matters because language problems can be mistaken for stress or distraction, but when they happen often, they may indicate changes in the brain's communication pathways. Early detection can open the door to speech therapy and brain exercises that help keep those pathways active longer. One of the earliest changes in Alzheimer's disease happens in the hippocampus, the brain's GPS system. When it's affected, navigating, even in familiar places, becomes confusing. Sam, who had driven the same route to his favorite fishing spot for 20 years, suddenly got lost on the way home. He recognized the landmarks, but couldn't figure out which way to turn. This matters because getting lost in familiar areas is a red flag for cognitive decline. While we all have moments of disorientation if it happens repeatedly, it's important to have it checked, not only for safety, but also because it may be one of the first signs the hippocampus is under strain. Movement changes can also signal dementia, especially types connected to Parkinson's disease. When the brain's motor system is affected, people may walk more slowly, stop swinging their arms naturally, or develop a stooped posture. Harold's wife noticed that during their evening walks, he no longer swung his arms and leaned slightly forward, almost as if he were bracing against wind. This matters because changes in posture or movement aren't just orthopedic. They can be neurological. If you notice them, it's worth talking to both a primary care doctor and possibly a neurologist to understand the cause and keep mobility strong. The brain's temporal lobe helps us keep track of time, organize memories, and understand sequences. When it's affected by dementia, a person may lose track of the month, season, or even the year. Dorothy, a retired nurse, began insisting it was Christmas in July, decorating her home with lights despite the summer heat. This matters because occasional confusion about the date can happen to anyone, but persistent or severe disorientation points to changes in the brain's timekeeping systems. Recognizing this early can help families provide extra orientation cues and structure to daily life. Attention is managed by a network between the parietal and frontal lobes, and when those connections weaken, focus becomes harder to maintain. George, an avid crossword enthusiast, began leaving puzzles half-finished and struggled to follow the plot of his favorite TV shows without asking constant questions. This matters because a shrinking attention span can be a sign the brain is struggling to filter distractions and hold onto information. Catching it early means you can adapt activities, break tasks into smaller pieces, and explore therapies to support focus. In dementias linked to Parkinson's or Lewy bodies, the brain cells that produce dopamine, which controls smooth movement, are gradually damaged. This can lead to tremors, twitching, or stiffness. Ruth's family first noticed a faint twitch in her fingers while she was holding her teacup. On its own, it seemed minor, but when paired with moments of mental fog, it led her doctor to investigate further, resulting in an early diagnosis. This matters because movement changes, even subtle ones, can be neurological rather than muscular. Recognizing this can help you get to the right specialist faster. Here's the most important thing I want you to take away from today. Dementia is not something that appears out of nowhere overnight. In most cases, the brain sends us small signals long before major symptoms develop. By paying attention to those signals, you give yourself and your loved ones the best chance at early intervention, better treatment options, and more quality years of clear, confident living. These early signs are not a reason to panic. They're a reason to be proactive. I've put together a free, easy-to-read PDF that summarizes all 10 signs we talked about today, along with a detailed blog post that goes deeper into the science and offers practical ways to support your brain health starting now. You'll find them on our website. And if you don't want to face this journey alone, join our senior health community group. It's a place where you can connect with others who care deeply about staying healthy, share your own experiences, and get access to monthly expert talks and direct Q&A sessions. Your brain is your life storyteller. Take care of it, listen to it, and never ignore the quiet messages it's trying to send. Because when it comes to brain health, the earlier you act, the stronger your story can be.